be original and don't get so caught up in what others might be telling you is the way, because the way changes every day. And there might be a small road that they could walk into and teach me some things too.
Bobby, I'm excited for several reasons. I arrive into the Tampa Bay area, into Florida, and we start talking about, promotions and bookings and different bands that are playing here, and your name comes up from everybody that I meet. And I gotta say, you really have put together in your career a legendary status at such a young age that everyone knows you, everyone loves you, everyone wants to work with you in any different way. Everybody trusts you dramatically in what they do. This is something that you really have put together. It's pretty amazing in the music industry. Where did this start for you? How did you get involved with music and necessarily that part of the business?
I believe it was like a baptism by fire type thing. I was in college in North Carolina, a sophomore at High Point College, playing baseball. I was in the journalism program, very interested in both. I had a friend who at the time was the concert chairman at the college. I wasn't really positive what he did. I just knew there were shows from time to time. He came to me one day out of the blue, and he had to leave school for an illness within his family. He had to quit school and go back home. And he said, he had a file in his hand. He said, I've been watching you. You had a college radio show at the time, just a volunteer thing. And he said, I think you can handle this. And he sort of said, I said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, you got to put on 4 shows a year, and you ask for a budget, and then they wind up giving you like 10% of the budget. You still got to do them anyway. And I was taking it anyway. He had to go, so I was like, sure, I'll take it. I wound up booking a show, my first one, which was a band called Firefall. It's still around today, great guys. And it was probably this fall of '83, '82. Got home for fall break, excited to tell my parents that I booked my first show. It was going to be earlier in November before Thanksgiving. And over the holidays, I got a call from their agent and said, got a little problem. The lead singer has throat polyps and we can't play the show.
Hence the fire part of it, yeah.
Hence the fire part, yeah. Tragedies have often become comedies or good things happen, so it taught me early on as foreshadowing of what to expect in the business as we know it now. They have to deal with these kind of things. But wound up replacing them with Pure Prairie League. It was a free show at school. Everything went off without a hitch, but that kind of was the start of it. I remember walking back out of the theater kind of on a cold night by myself to my dorm and looking back after the last truck was loaded and said, I think I want to do this. That was sort of the tangible part of the career, like something shifted.
Your appetite was whet and you got a taste of what this was like.
Yes.
So did you do any research as far as who was in this business doing this before?
Well, that's really where it started. Full steam right there. That's when I started attending the college conferences, really paying more attention to when you heard promoters' commercials, another Phantasma production, Cellar Door concerts. What is all that? Okay. Yeah. So came back to Tampa Bay area here on my breaks and started making calls and kind of putting the puzzle together that it's regional and then it's national and just from a 1,000-mile view of how the process could work. And then got back and just started really networking with agents and trying to make each show better, trying to not do the norm, trying to, hopefully leave the program better than when you found it in the sense of, artist level or doing more quantity of them or things like that. So working with radio stations, the process became real intriguing from start to finish.
Interesting.
When the lights go down at the show, in essence, the promoter's job is sort of done for the moment and you're passing the baton to the artist.
Right.
But what precedes that was the intriguing part of the on sale and the prep and the production advance and just all the puzzle pieces that go together to the economics of it and expectations but it was magical and I said this is when you leave and you say I would do this for free it's sort of you get what people for the first time I understood what people meant by that that it was just so joyous
That's where passion enters the world of what that is because passion really is a matter of saying I'll do this even if I don't get paid.
Absolutely.
And when you say that and you can live a life doing that and then you get paid, that's a pretty magical connection that you put together here.
For sure.
So all the work, the preparatory work, the build-up is really where the intensity is with you, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's all before that, so you have to work with agents and production companies. What's the day like when you're booking a band?
Nowadays it's a lot different than say 25 years ago when it kind of all started for that process. But typically we have 4 venues as well as other specialty shows that we produce on on an annual basis. So we're doing about 300 concerts a year of indoors, outdoors, private shows, public shows.
Between these 4 venues?
These 4 shows and other events like the Palladium where we're sitting today, or where the on-the-road productions happen. So typically, you want to create a relationship with the agents and the managers more so than ever now too, which has kind of changed. It used to be kind of taboo in the old days to speak to a manager. Kind of, the agent had their job to book live dates, and the manager was there to say yes or no, we're taking that date, or maybe have some suggestions. But nowadays it's so spread out, and it used to be more where there might have been like a half a dozen bigger agencies that had the lion's share of a lot of the artists.
Right.
Now there's a lot of boutique agencies like in Brooklyn, and the formats are way different than just pop, rock, and country and comedy. So you have to kind of scour a little more now. But hopefully, I wanted to help create an environment, a reputation where at the beginning I was sort of by myself doing this when we got to Ruth Eckerd, in the sense of the booking part. About 6 or 7 years later, I got some help. And it was not that it wasn't offered to me, it was just the other part of growing up and delegating, which is another conversation. But creating that dialogue with agents and then having the artists come down and have a wonderful experience, aside from being successful, I thought these are all things that would weigh heavy during the process, like making sure that it's not just about booking the artist and selling out. How did they like the venue? How was the catering? Did they like the stagehands? How did it sound? Did it start on time? Was the backstage amenities to their liking, dressing rooms and things like that? And hopefully each one was infectious to maybe somebody else within their agency, or they got back and gave a great report. So each one was kind of like a litmus test, ongoing, overlapping, and then until hopefully some of the major agencies said, hey, you got a good thing going on down there. We're going to, hopefully maybe give you that artist that you were wanting, but they weren't quite ready yet, or so
a matter of trust.
Absolutely, big part, because everybody's sort of job and reputation's on the line. Because if the artist comes back and yells about the type of venue, the agent's going to get screamed at. Why'd you put me there? If it's a bad experience at the venue, then we're going to get screamed at. And then so it trickles down or up. So hopefully there was a lot more up than down. And
and the reverse happens too. So when it's positive, it's going to come back to you big time.
Correct.
Which it seems like what you have done consistently. So it almost seems like there has to be a balance between the communication skills and the business skills. I mean, because even just speaking to people, you have such a natural way of how you speak to them. You make them feel comfortable. You bring them in immediately into your conversation in a very relaxed manner that is not, I think of, an intense, in-your-face, New York style, booking agency that would be screaming at you. You really have a very, very different style in how you do it.
Looking back, it's probably the only way I could be happy doing this. It's something you may learn along the way. There's too much of that in the world today, too much strife and yelling and unnecessary things like that. And we're in a very unpredictable business when you're dealing with passions and egos and pressure.
Stress is right at your door.
Anything you can do to mitigate that by conversation or alternatives or suggestions. I think that they're more open to that now than ever before, because the demand for live performance now is bigger than it ever has been because of the state of the recording business.
Absolutely.
So every date counts, and they want to be invited back. So, any of the old adages about artists screaming, yelling, and people like that, I mean, I think we've done 10,000 shows, and I can't count on my hand anybody who's yelled or screamed or thrown anything.
How great that
they
is
want to be
hear.
invited back. It's a place they want to be invited back to. Artist interaction now is more relevant and also more expected. It used to be, honestly, it was like a taboo when you started, that you saw the artist, especially as a young person. I had nothing that I could, in my mind, give them that they hadn't seen in their world. So, you're in your 20s, you just kind of want to do a great job and get your team together to do a great job, and hopefully, like by osmosis, things happen. Now they're coming out of the dressing rooms, they're interacting with thoughts and plans, and how's that venue,
Beautiful.
What do you know about this, and what do you think about this? Should I add this? Should I do that? What do you think if I do a Christmas show? What do you think? Would people come to that? And I find it so complimentary that I would think they're doing it every night in every venue, but if they're not, it's.
I have a feeling it's unique with you. The fact that you bring a level of humility out of these artists is because I think it's the image that you portray to them, that you're reasonable and you're willing to work with them, and you want to work with them to make this better, as opposed to against them, which a lot of that challenge happens.
I often explain to not only our staff, but young people coming into the industry, that if you can, from the get-go, emphasize it as a partnership instead of a booking or a buy, sell, or promoter act, the more they're in the game, they're going to go to bat and do more phone interviews and make the, you know, at the end of the day, keeping it in the circle of the event becoming a total success. It's a win-win for everybody. So there should be none of that angst or animosity about the rock star coming in, don't look, don't touch. It's going to be, what can we do to make this work? And we found in the last 5 years that we've had artists who have never done interviews doing interviews, or meet and greets, or things to make things go over the hump to get to the sellout. They want that. They need that because, and it's a, like I said, it's a victory for all. The patrons have a wonderful experience coming to. When it says sold out on the marquee, you drive in. If there's a little bit of traffic, you're not as caring because you're part of something that's the place to be in town, right? The artist has a feather in their cap because it's a sold out as they walk in the building from the back door, and our staff is, you know, enjoying a short victory because tomorrow there's 2 or 3 more shows. So we embrace the victories and quickly, and then we move on. But it's a terrific feeling, and to know that it's a team effort, without being, you know, using that overused phrase, that we really try to stress that it's not just me paying you, or it's not us paying you. There has to be some sort of obligation to make this successful. It's a business. But that's
venture, a very unique thing in your end of the business, the booking end of the business. It's very unique to have that level of relationship with all these. I mean, you have to have relationship with PR people and to contact them. And this is an incredible. You talked about delegation. I mean, with all these people that you're contacting now, you had to learn that skill of delegation.
It was probably the most difficult feature I've ever had to learn.
Let it go.
Our previous CEO, when I started at Ruth Eckerd, had known that I had come from a great company called Phantasma Productions, which was one of the premier independent promoters in the country at the time in the 70s. John Stoll, may he rest in peace, was on the Bill Graham, Don Law, Jack Boyle level of bringing shows, events to Florida.
Legendary.
Legendary, and his style was colorful and brash, but when you're using your own money, in the Wild Wild West days, you know, you can understand why people could have the highs and lows. But he was incredible to observe on a daily basis. And John Valentino, who has since taken over the company, and it's now AEG Concerts, was a wonderful man, sort of my mentor in the business, whom I met at the college conferences. At Phantasma, we were doing home shows one day. We had comedy clubs we owned. We did national tours. We did shows all over Florida. And then the next day you'd come back in and you'd be in tuxedos with a week of Frank Sinatra shows in Fort Lauderdale. The next day we're doing a chili cook-off. So I often said our vehicles had, if you open up the back of our trunks of our cars, it would be duct tape, construction cones, roll tickets, right? Because any given day you're going to Daytona, you're going there, you're going here. So it was wonderful. So when Ruth Eckerd called about, the Ruth Eckerd Hall to come over and book the venue, the timing was great. My wife and I were looking to come back to this Gulf Coast of Florida where we both had ties and start a family. And we said, not sleeping in a hotel every night is a good thing. Yet I still want to do what I do. So it was a wonderful opportunity and a chance to let the Ruth Eckerd Hall, which at that point was probably about 15 years old, successful in its own right in the 80s for what a performing arts center at the time was, at the top of its game. But transition, it was a great challenge to take it to the next generation, which is where we are. But like I said, it took about 6 years to get some help, and it wasn't because they were saying, Bobby, you need an assistant. Bobby, you have to get help. And I just didn't know how to delegate. It wasn't anything to do with keeping it all here. I didn't know. So when we were starting, we were doing about 100 shows a year, and like I said, now we're at 300. So along the time, we started doing a lot more on the road stuff. A lot of post-baseball games and golf tournaments, concerts and private shows, and we wanted the brand out there because I thought it was a successful brand, and it was infectious to other clients who said, hey, I see you're doing the post-game concerts at the Rays, can we do one at this golf tournament? Or I saw you brought in this artist for a private show, can we have them come to our such and such? So it just became impossible to not have help. But it was, and even then I thought my biggest fear, I tell my wife, was, what if there's a day where I don't have anything for him to do or her to do? And she's like, you just get help and you'll watch, right? And now I think we have 4 in the department now, and a great team of help in the venue too that jump in when we have 4 in one night or something too.
So this really was as we say, on the job training. I mean, this really was at the point you made a call, and you speak about the Wild West. It really still had that element of it that you were coming in, shifting and changing and bringing people in, and on the spot you had to create opportunity for people to work. This is amazing that you've built this machine.
Well, it certainly wasn't.
It's a
just
fine-tuned
new.
machine now. It really
Well,
is.
the timing of the industry changing, where certain types of profile artists that typically wouldn't play theaters
Right.
were starting to play theaters, or I was telling John Valentino and I would sit at those Sinatra shows and go, how amazing they were. We did like 20 or 22 shows that couple of seasons with him, and we said, who's going to replace this guy?
Yeah.
Like, what's there going to be?
Yeah.
At that time, and we just said, you know what? It's like the industry will take care of itself, in the sense of some change will come along where they're going to say, somebody's going to crack it and go, wow, did you see where Santana did 3 nights at that theater and such? Oh, it wasn't an arena? No, they did theater. Really? And they found that consumers were like, you know what? I like my comfy seat. I like the sound to be acoustically perfect. I like the fact that it's air conditioned. I like the fact that I can park and it's on, so those amenities that demo were starting to express that they really were willing to say, you know what, that attitude, I'd pay double to do that. Well, you know what? There might be something to that. And then it was just a matter of convincing managers that it wasn't a step down to play theaters. It was actually an enviable destination of venue, So, and then along came the clientele, and that's that sort of change that's happened in the world of these theaters. So we just pushed our groups to say, they'd say, Bobby, how did you get Van Morrison? How did you get Steven Tyler? How did you get so-and-so? We got Billy Joel to play here. The Palladium. He was obviously not a full concert, but he was looking for a place to do a solo thing. And our goal is always, when somebody calls, we want a venue that we can help them get to.
Right.
So it's not just, oh, Ruth Eckerd's booked, sorry, click. It's like, I'm tired of those calls. We need to have, we like to present that artist. And if we don't do it in this market, somebody else will. So why compete when we can actually keep it under the umbrella? So it happened here. This was sort of at the Palladium here where we are in St. Pete. He wanted to do a little solo show, had to be affiliated with a college, had to be under a certain amount of people. Tickets were $25. This was only like 6 years ago. It was crazy. And it was really like an old-time throwback event, because it had to be like cash only at the window, only 2 per person with ID, no credit card sales. It was really like the line around the building on a Saturday morning like the old days. It was a sight to see. And then so we did Billy here, and it was amazing, and that started we've been here 3 times this month. We're here with Philip Phillips tomorrow night. And
how amazing! But it seems like you've shifted the business, and you've changed the business for what it was.
Well, and again, it's not a soul thing; it's more of a mindset. And when those questions are asked about how do you get these artists, I say to a lot of my colleagues in Florida, especially, I said, when you stop referring to yourselves as a performing arts center and listening to people who think they're telling you what should play your venue, and you start thinking of yourself as a promoter with a building, things will change.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
So, and a lot of them have went that route and said, you know what, we want these artists as well, and we're tired of hearing from agents that say what should be playing in my space, or, oh, you're a PAC, so therefore you should have this. No.
Interesting concept.
So, yeah.
So with all these acts that you have, and you also have opening bands that you have come in that step into the opportunity of being able to be showcased here, where you might give them a certain amount of time. You may have 15, 20 minutes is your time, and you give them tremendous opportunity.
Yes. At Ruth Eckerd, we have a smaller stage outside, which enables young talent in the community through either our program at Ruth Eckerd or our Grammy program. And it's one of the 4 venues that houses that, and we want to give opportunity for them to collaborate and play without. Sometimes it's hard for a national act to approve you because it goes through channels and they don't really know you. So we want to have a place where we know that we can place a local artist every night on our stage outside that the public will see coming in and sit and watch. That can't be changed by an artist saying, oh, we switch gears, we're bringing our own opener now, or whatever. That enables us to showcase them, and we continue to do that, whether it be here or if we promote a Tampa theater, or we promote other venues. And we're constantly, I guess, providing that forum, because it's very hard to get on the national shows. But we've had many occasions where the artists actually can observe our outside stage as they're looking from the outside load-in area. And they'll say, "Who's that outside? Where's that band? Who's that kid?" And we'll say they came through our Grammy program, or they came through our school at the Hoffman Institute at Ruth Eckerd, and they're collaborating with another friend, and we've had others. We've had a group that came through called the Reese Brothers, who we put on the Clearwater Jazz Fest, open for Chicago, and they wound up going out for 30 days with Chicago, and they were 2 teenage kids from Clearwater. So you just never know. I mean, those are those 1 in a million stories, but there's got to be a one.
Are there stories about opening acts that came in that didn't necessarily respect the rules, or maybe egos got in the way?
No, we pretty much have class going on about that all the time. There's a My wife's an etiquette teacher, so we do rock and roll etiquette too, where you're not late. If you're supposed to play 20 minutes, you don't play 20 in an encore, especially if you don't have any mud in your cleats yet. You shouldn't be causing the next band to go on to start late. So we're constantly, kind of giving that on-the-job training a little bit as to, the way it works. I'm not saying that artists that are, superstars don't do that, but they have maybe more of a right to do that at their own. They're calling the shots. They've earned that extra encore,
So the opening acts have to really kind of learn the rules, and respect the rules is really what they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only just on stage, just young people coming into the business.
Yeah.
Especially in this market when, like I said, we're presenting 300 events a year, festivals, concerts all over town, and I'm shocked that there's not literally half a dozen kids at the door every day at the reception desk. That's the part that we kind of, and John from AG's like, goes, man, we would crawl there. We would, and that's sort of the difference between the GPA is great. We want you to do well in school, but it's going to be the ones who kind of, as being a musician and that path that you've got to take notes and you've got to come back next week and you've got to frequently check in. There's more than the resume. So I think, we want to hear about kids wanting to come into the business. Because like I say, 70% of the jobs are not on the stage.
Absolutely.
So
and think about what you're just saying. 70% of the jobs are not on stage.
Right.
So there's so many opportunities in the music industry that you can still be involved with music. And if your dream for not being on stage doesn't pan out, there are other avenues you can go down.
Absolutely. And our receptionist will say, Bobby, this one's been back 3 times. He keeps checking in. If we don't have a position open, we'll make sure we save that, because that's the one that really knows that this is not 9 to 5. This is not the norm. But the rewards are better than the norm. We get that gift every day when, like I said, the house lights go down and the crowd applauds and it starts. So the showering of that is tremendous, and you can't even describe or put in writing what that means, because every day is different, and that's why it's a special person. But I always encourage, as the universities around town have the programs, and to emphasize that book smart's great, but when you're face to face with Diana Ross and she's asking you something, you can have an 8.2 weighted GPA, and you better know that that's not going to help you there. So
that really is the learning experience. And so you're trying to find these young kids that have the enthusiasm, the passion, and are hungry enough.
Totally. That
want to follow in this path.
Totally. I mean, like we said before, I played the trumpet in 4th grade for 5 minutes. And then, like I said, my baseball equipment was more important. But I was an old soul. I mean, I grew up in a home where, we loved Frankie Valli and my parents, and Jay and the Americans, and Jerry Vale's Christmas. I mean, we heard all this, Elvis. So there's something there generated, love for variety shows, like Tony O had expressed. That was like, wow, look at this. You have guest musicians, and there's comedy, and how it come together, and I was intrigued by all that. Never really pursuing it, but that was always pretty incredible too, and sad that we don't have that anymore.
It was a magical time, and Tony O, as you mentioned about his interview, when I interviewed Tony O, who I've known for many, many years, having worked with Sinatra as his road manager for many, many years, and then with Don Rickles, he really kind of saw the global, scene, and the Vegas scene, and just all that part of what went down of how the industry was. But it seems like what you've done here is you've kind of recreated that, a vibe of that here. You really have that, in this area, which is very unique.
It's a passion of mine. I can only, really program for what I think the market will support, and for what we certainly have interest in, and if it sticks, then to keep doing it. So we're always suggesting to artists about collaborations, or filming some sort of special that could incorporate this, or reuniting a group. Because I'm a believer of it's got to happen somewhere, and you're tired of seeing everything from every DVD's from New York or from Vegas. They flip out, especially like the comedians and the television personalities from the day, because they think like it's kind of past them, and like, no, there's interest there, if it's done in a certain way, and why not try? One of the quotes I love was that just because you wake up, don't stop dreaming. Because my wife's like, what are you thinking of today? What is it? Who are you talking to? So, but that's what and hopefully that exuberance as it's presented to the staff
Yeah.
or to the agent, they think I'm half crazy. But you know what?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not a conventional business.
You have that enthusiasm, and I can sense with you that you carry that with you every day, and that's infectious. That's a very, very important part of when you have a passion like you have. You kind of, other people get sucked into that passion, and they want to work hard because they're seeing that you're enjoying doing what you're doing, and they want to be a part of it.
Thank you.
You know, this sessions is really about this next generation that can see and be influenced by the people that I get the wonderful chance, an opportunity to interview. For them to see and then to learn from, to learn what that part of the industry is about. So in closing, what would you say to this next generation that is watching this that might want to get involved with booking and have a little taste of what you're going through? What message would you give them?
For young people coming into the promotion producing side, which is the part of the business that I can probably best help with.
Yeah.
If they're truly passionate about that, to be original and don't get so caught up in what others might be telling you is the way, because the way changes every day.
Yeah.
And there might be a small road that they could walk into and teach me some things too. And that's why I think the magic of our business is that it's always evolving. And as you know, when something gets to a point, along comes something else.
Right.
So it's ever changing, it's breathing, it's living. Be aggressive, but do it in such a way that it's more passionate, infectious. Show your love that you can't live without having a career in this business. And employers or producers, whatever it might be, whatever field you're going near, will smell that a mile away, and they will literally gravitate above the pack and say that's the one, because it's not book stuff. It's relationship building is what it is, and that's the whole message as we started. Relationships have brought us more shows. Better relationships get you more shows. More shows in your community mean more sold out on the marquee, more people working at night, more from parking attendants to ushers to bartenders to ticket takers, right? So it's like a winning franchise.
The entire family.
And that starts with with the personalities of the staff, because nobody likes a negative norm around. So and those are sniffed out as well. So just don't let it be stifle your passion. And it may not be this week, but it'll be next week, and somebody will notice. Not everything happens the second you get out of school with your diploma. You can do many other things. I went right from there to writing for a music magazine, teaching, to where I had my afternoons off so where I could make sure I went to the shows in the evening to check in with the promoters. It was fun doing the interviews, but I used it more as a tool to let the promoters see the way I behaved at the venue.
Fantastic.
Because part of it could be, I've seen that guy around. He's not starstruck. He's always on time. So he said he's polite to security. The artist, and that along the way you could be interviewing every day, not even know you're interviewing by what this very small business with not many openings in the areas that they probably desire to be in, happening every day. So little by little you can make those baby steps without even realizing you're doing it, just by attitude, and that's what I stress to them.
Well, I'll tell you, your integrity speaks volumes. It really does, and it's beautiful to see what you've done. You say the way changes. Well, you are at the cusp of making that change for future generations, and what you do with the high level of respect that you've earned in the industry, literally as a living legend, in being involved with so many musicians of who you've helped, and the jobs that you've helped create in the process has been absolutely fantastic. On behalf of the Sessions, Bobby, I thank you so much.
Thank you, Dom. It's been a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you.